Hey everybody, we are kicking off the holiday weekend with After 83 Weeks. This is what we've got up tonight. Eric just came off from hanging out with JR. We got to hear a little bit about that. We are going to play a very patriotic version of Main Event Mid-Card Catering. And Eric has an announcement of sorts. So let's see my friends, everybody joining us here tonight. There they are, George, Steve, Adam, and of course, the man of the hour, one Mr. Eric Bischoff. How's everybody doing?
Eric goes first.
Yeah.
I'll go first.
I'm doing great. We're heading into the 4th of July. Had a couple friends show up here in Cody last night around midnight. They got lost.
Oh, no.
They drove to Cody and they thought they knew where they were going. They got lost. So they called me up at midnight and said, Eric, we think we're pretty close to where you live, but we're not sure. Can you come and get us? And I said, sure. Now, keep in mind, I've been sleeping for 2.5 hours. But I said, sure, I'll come and get you. Where are you? Well, we're not sure. Wait a minute. You want me to come and find you so you can follow me home, but you don't know where you are? Yeah. So that was my night last night. So yeah, today was fun.
And they're still out there somewhere,
No,
fingers crossed they'll show up.
I found them. I eventually found them and got them home, and we've spent all day cooking. So yeah, except for the part where I had to work. But yeah, it's been fun. We're good.
So who's all on the guest list for this weekend? Anybody that we would know?
Nobody you would know. No, these are friends that we've had for a long, long time, but nobody that's associated with the wrestling business, and nobody you would know.
And all of our live viewers. Oh, go ahead, George.
Nobody associated with the wrestling business, and rightfully so.
Okay. I guess that.
George.
All right, George, do explain, you fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
No, I think Christy was saying something.
I was going to say our live viewers are dying to know, Eric, what is on the menu for the big Bischoff 4th of July bash?
I don't know, because we're only having 2 friends here. It's not going to be a big bash this year. It's just Lori and I and a couple friends, and maybe a couple people from local friends. So it's very, very small. We're going to do green chili because Mrs. B makes just an amazing version of green chili, authentic green chili, made from scratch. I typically do a brisket, but I'm kind of over it. Kind of done a lot of briskets. I've reached nirvana, perfection, a perfect state of mind, body, and soul when it comes to briskets. So I'm going to challenge myself and maybe do some ribs.
Ooh, no elk?
No, not for the 4th of July, no.
Okay. All right.
Besides, I don't give elk to my friends. I hoard that for my family.
Oh, that's great.
Also, Joshua Rosenbaum wants to know if you're going to be using the Rec Tech this weekend.
Yes, I will. Already have, by the way.
And Joshua Rosenbaum also...
We've already started. I'm making smoked chicken chili today.
Oh, hell yeah. He wants to know, do you need a bartender for your 4th of July party? I hope he's close.
No, we're good.
Sorry, Josh, I tried.
I imagine Josh like Isaac from the Love Boat with the mustache. It's great. It's a visual in my head, and it's sticking.
Have you met Josh? He'd be a fun bartender, man.
Yeah, heck yeah. I'm for it.
He would. And while we're shouting out some of our live viewers here, I'm not sure about this one. Let's take a look at Mick Mac. He said he's waiting for your big announcement tonight, Eric. And also, he claims
what is my big announcement? I don't even know what my big announcement is. What the fuck?
He wasn't the only one who mentioned this. And I think you maybe said something last week that would allude to you having an announcement today. I just went with it at the top of the show because I thought, let's bring some eyeballs in. So if you don't have a big announcement, maybe you could make something up.
We set the bar, super high. There's supposed to be some big announcement. Now we've teased it. I don't have fuck all to announce.
Oh, and you hate that. Fuck, I take it back.
Well, we'll figure something out.
All right. Well, it is. Mick Mac does also claim that it's his birthday. So he has a lot of birthdays, but we'll just roll with that too. And it has a joke for us as per usual. Let's kick off the show with this one. What do ghosts eat, everyone?
Spaghetti.
Yes.
We're going to lose so many viewers.
Oh, God. First of all, we need a blanket apology to everybody listening to this. Steve Kaufmann, you may want to craft an apology letter to the folks over at YouTube.
I will.
So we don't get this channel pulled.
I have a
obscenity.
form one. I have a form one left over for all the stuff I do.
Yeah, because that was borderline. That was comedic obscenity right there.
So 4 minutes 53 is where I'm. So when I see the dip in viewership, that's where I'll know that's where it came from. Thanks,
pornography. You know what the definition of pornography? You know what the definition of pornography is? The legal definition, at least it was during the Larry Flint case, was material, sexually explicit material with no redeeming value. What Mick Mac's joke was a comic version of pornography. Comedic material with no socially redeeming value. That's what that was.
All right. Well, let's see if Nicholas Blake can do us a little bit better. Another top guy swinging at bat with a question. He wants to know what happened to the WCW hotline. He says he called without his parents' permission and ran up a just $1,000. Guess he was only calling once a week. Ran up $1,000 phone bill calling into the WCW hotline. Eric, how did the hotline eventually meet its end?
God, I don't remember if there was one issue or if it was just a culmination of issues. I think if I had to guess, because I don't remember, because I don't think there was any one thing. I think it was a combination of the fact that we just got a lot of heat for it. It generated money. It generated a lot of money. And there was a point in time when we first started it where the revenue generated by the hotline was so important because WCW had never made any profit, and it was the one thing other than pay-per-view it was actually driving revenue. And as we got closer to that point where we were finally making money, that $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 that the hotline drew every year was the difference between red ink and black ink. But once we went past that, and once we were really making money, and the hotline became less and less significant to the bottom line, then the issues that it created, controversy internally and externally, that it created, just got to the point where it's just, it's just too big of a headache. It's not really worth it anymore.
Do you still remember the number? I'm asking Eric, Adam.
1-800-909-9900.
You're so close.
1-900. You were there.
Okay.
Come on,
1-800 is free.
Toll free. That's toll free. Come on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
But you know what is still going? It's Call & Oates, where you can literally call and you have 4 different types of Hall & Oates songs to be played at your whim. So I'm just saying that's still going.
What is that number?
Yeah, and you can call up and have 300-pound drunk chicks talk dirty to you too. Whatever gets you through the night.
Either one, both will make their dreams come true.
Oh God. Here we go.
I have more so a proposition that I've been wanting to, preach since the One Night Stand episode. If ever you write another book, which I'm sure will be at some point very soon, hopefully, because you're a great writer. I suggest that visual of you giving Paul Heyman the middle finger should be either the cover or the back. It doesn't matter what you put in the actual pages. I guarantee you're going to sell tons of copies just from that picture of the middle finger, because you got that smile, and the middle finger, and just like such a nonchalant look. I say let's make it happen.
That's so funny. You say that. I'm sorry. Yeah, let's just stay tuned. Stay tuned. What day is it?
Thursday the 30th.
He's a new book for us before.
It's we're getting close.
But I want that picture. That picture has to be on at some point.
Yeah,
Who would own the rights to that photo?
Oh, I don't care. I'll steal them. Fuck it.
Love it.
I'm sure a ringside photographer from that night could. I feel like they'd be able to license it, or the WWE would license the photo.
WWE wouldn't license shit. If
Well,
it's not their book, they're not going to license it. Trust me.
True. And we're guessing your next book would not be under the WWE publishing umbrella.
No, it would not. That's a fair assumption.
All right. Well, Jake Ryan wants to ask you about the ratings for Dynamite. something that you get asked about quite a lot. He said he read the ratings. They did an average of around 1.2 million viewers, 0.34 in the 18 to 49 demo. Jake doesn't have a question here, but I'm wondering, Eric, is that just 1 week? Is this cause for celebration over there at AEW?
Oh, I'm going to answer this question, so don't think that I'm going to avoid it, because I'm not with my long preamble here. But it's like, no matter how I answer this question, I'm going to generate a fair amount of reaction in social media on either side of the fence. If I'm really honest about things, and I'm bitter and I'm old and I just don't get it, and I'm pissed off that Tony Khan won't hire me, and I'm really trying to get a job, whatever. If I'm slightly supportive, that I'm really trying to get a job, so I'm just going to be honest. Here's how I look at it. AEW last night drew, and I haven't seen the numbers, so I'm going to assume that the caller
I can confirm Jake
whatever.
Ryan's numbers are correct.
So let's say it's 1.2.
1.023.
Oh, 1.023. Well, that's different.
Yeah, it was 0.88 last week.
3 divided by, what did Monday Night Raw do?
Ooh.
I think it was 1.8 or 1.9.
28. Quick
This
Google.
week.
John
Oh,
Cena.
yeah,
It
they
was
dipped slightly. 1.951.
Okay, divided by 1.951.
We're making math fun here, guys.
So AEW got 48% of the viewers that Raw got. Is that right?
Yeah, that feels right. 1.9 and 1.0. Pretty close to half.
48%, or maybe it was 52%. Either way, they got about half, basically, of the viewers of their nearest competition. Back in WCW, before Nitro, when our only show was WCW Saturday Night, which was at 6:05 Eastern on a Saturday, 3:05 Pacific time on a Saturday, we would do at least half of what WWE did on Monday Night Raw in prime time. So that statement suggests to me that, hey, AEW is doing fine. They're happy. Their network's happy. Their fans are happy. Who knows if they're making money or not? Whatever. That almost doesn't even matter, because it doesn't matter to the cons whether it makes money or not. Everybody's having fun. So they're about half as successful as WWE in terms of television viewership. In terms of revenue, that's not even a conversation. It's a young company. Everybody that's involved in it is having fun. Wrestlers are getting checks. And you know what? I haven't heard any conversation out of AEW yet comparing themselves. Well, they bury WWE whenever they get an opportunity. But in terms of comparing, that conversation's kind of died off for a while, hasn't it? And look, go out, have fun, be hopeful. Be hopeful that AEW is going to become competitive with WWE someday. They're not even close. They're holding their audience. Yes, they've come up a couple 100,000 over what we've seen, over 100,000 probably on average over what we've seen over the last several months. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But to suggest that this is any kind of pivot point or turning point in their trajectory is simply just delusional fanboy, fangirl bullshit.
Well,
How was
something
that
I
for you?
remember.
Sean Ross
Pretty
Sapp
much
should send us
covers
a
it.
Christmas card for sure.
Well, I remember about this time last year, the ratings started doing really well, kind of in the same period of time. And it's sort of, I equate that with it being the time of the year when other things are not new anymore. There aren't new episodes of all the hot shows that everybody's tuning in for, and people are busy with a whole plethora of summer activities and that kind of a thing. But they really did well this time of year last year as well. That kind of tells me that people watch Dynamite when there's nothing else on. And I don't know how big of a win that really is. There has to be something they can do to change that.
And I don't know the answer to that. I haven't done the research, but I'll tell you what my reaction to that is. I disagree, or I'll take the other perspective. You can look at this as either half glass full, which is the only people watching is because there's not much else on, or I'm sorry, half glass empty. The only reason people watch it is because there's nothing else on. My half glass full is wrestling fans are pretty fucking loyal, and they stay tuned throughout the year pretty consistently. Whereas in the rest of television, typically, because in the summertime, people are out doing shit like we are tonight. Lori's out cooking with friends. Families have shit to do. There's baseball games, softball games, all kinds of things. Stays light till 10 o'clock at night, in many parts of the country. So it's harder to get people to sit and watch television, which is why most of television comes down. They call it hut levels. Households using television come down during the summer periods. People are traveling, vacation, a million different reasons. But wrestling stays pretty consistent because I think wrestling fans are generally more loyal than the average viewing audience. So I think that's a testimony to wrestling in general, or AEW specifically in this conversation. So there you go. That's how I feel about that.
Very optimistic. I love it. Well, let's get to some of our super chats here. We got one from Josh Eternal. Great question about Lex Luger. He says, why do people always call Luger a bust? He was insanely over in both his late 80s run and his late 90s run. Also, he wants to know, will SmackDown die without Roman Reigns? Let's talk about Lex Luger first. You certainly don't see him as a bust. Is that true?
No. Everybody, that's funny. Any talent's success or failure or measures of success are subjective. How are you going to measure a wrestler's success? What makes a wrestler a huge success or a quote unquote bust? Is it the amount of money they generate? Is it the amount of money that they make? A good friend of mine told me a long time ago, in his opinion, Hulk Hogan, that the best worker in your business is the guy that makes the most money. So, I don't know. I kind of listen to that. Sure, Rock might have something to say about that, might agree with it. So would John Cena. So would a lot of guys who weren't technical wrestlers, but had great characters that were hugely over. I think Lex had a lot to do with WCW's early attention and success. Even though WCW wasn't financially successful early on, it made a big loud noise early on and built a foundation. Lex was a big part of that. The whole narcissist era in WWE, that was probably not what it could have been or should have been, but is that because of Lex or because it was the idea? I don't know. Take your pick, but guess what? Lex made a lot of money. And then Lex came to WCW and took a huge bet out. Came back to WCW and made a huge bet on himself. I offered him a deal that was meant to piss him off so badly he went away and didn't call me back. That was my negotiating tactic. I sat at home. I said, what should I do? On the one hand, I want to make Sting happy because Sting's my friend and I like Sting and I see a lot of value in Sting. And I want to keep this guy, on my team. So I want to be right. I'm going to do the righteous thing. So I'm going to offer Lex a deal. But motherfucker, don't offer him too much money because he's a dick. Just don't let this Sting guy talk you into shit. He's a prick. He's a prick. He treats people like shit. He thinks he's better than everybody. And we don't need him. But I got to keep Sting happy. Come on. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to offer him a deal that he has to refuse. I didn't offer him a deal he can't refuse. I offered him a deal he should have never accepted, and he accepted it. And guess what? He was hugely instrumental in Nitro's success. hugely instrumental. Not the most instrumental, but he was in there amongst the top 5 consistently in terms of advancing characters and story and delivering action and surprises. My God, he set the tone for Nitro. That alone made him worth his value times 3. He was one of the reasons that I was actually able to take a piece of research that I believed to be true, that I interpreted, and I said, wrestling fans love surprises. I need a fucking surprise. And I used Lex Luger to be that surprise in a very effective way that made Nitro the talk of the town in our very first episode. So, yeah, I think Lex Luger was a huge success, but that's my subjective opinion. That's how I feel about that.
And as far as whether SmackDown will die without Roman Reigns,
that's a stupid thing to say.
they got plenty of other folks over there who can carry the torch.
Just watch and see.
Yeah.
We'll
Now
see.
going back to Lex, right? Did you ever get an account of firsthand of him and Bruce Brody in the cage match in Florida? The clip only in recent years has surfaced, and it's fascinating. Do you know about this story?
No, I've never seen the clip. I never had the conversation.
Oh, I'm gonna shoot that to you. It's a gem.
Speaking of the first ever Monday Nitro, obviously that was from the Mall of America. In the 4 years or so that you were in charge when Nitro was a thing, was there ever any thoughts of having another show from another mall, or maybe even the same mall, the Mall of America?
No, it's interesting. No, there never was. No. Mall of America was born out of necessity, right? The mother of all invention is born out of necessity, or something like that. No, I went to the Mall of America because the Mall of America was pretty new at that point. It was kind of like a big thing. It was always into the news, largest mall in the world, all that bullshit. And I thought, okay, I'm going to draft off of that publicity. And also, I didn't have to worry about drawing a crowd. I mean, if you're ever to the Mall of America, go look at that spot where we shot that show. You didn't need a lot of people to make it look good. And that's why I did it, because we couldn't draw a crowd. I couldn't put that show in an arena. I couldn't even put that show in center stage. It would have looked like shit. I couldn't put it at Disney MGM Studios, and I would have taken it seriously. I couldn't put it in a 10,000 seat venue because I couldn't sell the tickets. So I had to come up with something that looked cool that nobody had ever seen before, that kind of camouflaged the fact that I couldn't draw a crowd.
Do you remember, real quick, I'm sorry, Steve, but do you remember how much it cost to run out of Mall of America? Or
I don't think it cost us anything. I mean, there were obviously expenses involved in it that were out of the ordinary. I'm sure, but in terms of permits and shit like that, fire department, because we weren't in a venue that was designed for that, so there probably had to be some considerations in permitting and things like that. But the mall didn't charge us anything, because for them it was publicity, getting national publicity. Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah.
They were happy with us.
At this time, when you were looking for more creative venues for things like Bash at the Beach or Sturgis, or even at the gate of Disney MGM Studios, were there ever any locations you scouted or thought about going to that didn't work out for any reason?
No, not really. I mean, I guess there were probably venues I would have liked to have shot in, but I didn't even try because I just knew they'd be too expensive. I wanted to do more stuff in Los Angeles. I wanted to be able to figure out a way to get into New York. We were already in Chicago, but I wanted to have kind of a regular established presence in New York, LA, and Chicago. New York, I had a challenge with because the only place I wanted to go in New York is Madison Square Garden, because the rest of the country doesn't care. When the rest of the country hears Madison Square Garden, in their minds, consciously or subconsciously, they're thinking, whoa, big event, credibility, holy shit. But when you go to any other venue outside of that, they don't know, right? It doesn't have a brand. I wanted Madison Square Garden, I wanted Chicago, and I wanted LA. But LA was really expensive, really expensive.
Was there ever any thoughts of maybe like having a show, maybe like inside of a theme park or maybe even like a carnival atmosphere?
No, because I for a while when I worked for Vern, we were trying to sell wrestling shows to state fairs because that's a big business.
Yeah.
It's not a tough thing to do, right? And I did that for a while, and I didn't want to be associated with that. It was too state fairish for me, which I know sounds weird in the context of, yeah, but you put a wrestling show in the Mall of America. But that was different. It wasn't rides and neon lights and carnivals and fucking clowns with big shoes and shit. I hate clowns, you know. Most people hate clowns. Most rational people hate clowns.
Oh, while we brought up Mall of America, anyway, Eric, I have to tell you that I had lunch at Lord Fletcher's on Monday on Lake Minnetonka.
did?
I did. Yes.
Did you go out on the deck?
We did, yes. That's where I ate. I had a nice lunch there with my great aunt and my mom, and it was so beautiful. You know, people are pulling up in their boats, and some people have like their swimsuits on, and some people are all dressed up fancy with their pearls, like they're for a party. And they were cooking up hamburgers, and there's like regulars at the bar, and it just is such a really cool place.
I was just there about a month ago with my brother and my sister, Lori and myself, and Garrett and his wife, my son Garrett and his wife, and Waylon. And we went to Lord Fletcher's on a Sunday. It's the first time I've been back there since like 1978 or 9. I used to be a bouncer there.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, because in the summertime, Lord Fletcher's used to be kind of a pretty good party environment on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
I could see it.
Because people would come up in their boats and they would party on their boats, and they would go from the deck and meet new people and take them out to party on the boat. And it was a shit show on weekends, and I got to bounce there, so it was fun. But I went back there to visit, first time since I was a bouncer there, and it was kind of cool. Brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah, good times.
I probably had some fun with some of those old ladies that were showing up wearing pearls.
I mean, wow.
Next time I'll ask around.
Back about 40 years ago, we probably had a great time.
Wow. Now, speaking of like venues, right? We talked about the Mall of America and such. One of the things that was synonymous with WCW was the different locations. You know, Club La Vila, Sturgis, and Road Wild, and all of that, right? And also the set designs. And now we're coming up on both Vegas playing host to both the UFC and Money on the Bank, right? And the sets for both shows aren't really that interesting, at least to me. What went into some of the R&D for some of the set designs, the Bash of the Beach, and how you would work that into the venue?
I mean, for me, I didn't. David Crockett had a lot to do with that. We had some outside vendors that were really good at set design that David Crockett would work with and contract with to actually come up with the ideas. My role in that was pretty simple, and I talked about this ad nauseum, that pay-per-views had to have their own personalities. If you look at any successful television show, or probably movies, true. I don't study movies as much as I used to study television, but the backdrop, the location, is just as much of a character in any television series as any of the actors or actresses. Grey's Anatomy. I don't know how many of you guys that are on this with me. How many of us watch Grey's Anatomy? Raise your hand. All right, where was Grey's Anatomy? Where was that fictitious hospital based?
It's in Seattle, the Grace Sloan Memorial. In it.
There you go. Seattle. Dallas, one of the best, most successful series in forever. Dallas was the backdrop, the city of Dallas, and the culture within Dallas. NYPD Blue. Chicago PD, you name it. It's the backdrop that helps give the show a personality, at least a level of personality. And I knew that pay-per-views, because we were having so many of them, if they didn't have their own personalities, then it would be hard to market them. Mm-hmm. And so I would just say, David Crockett, everybody else, we need to find a location that is unique, and we need a set design that brings that uniqueness to the forefront so that our location and our theme has its own personality. And then everybody else would go to work and come up with ideas.
I think the sex...
Yeah, we want to talk a little more about WWE and going head to head with UFC this weekend, right? Yeah, all right. Yes. We have this great super chat from 82 Atlantic. He wants to know, Eric, are you flattered that WWE took a page out of your book by going head to head on the same night and the same city as UFC? Who do you think will win the Saturday Night War? So for anyone who doesn't know, Money in the Bank is right here in Las Vegas this Saturday, along with, some UFC stuff as well, which I couldn't tell you as much about. But what are your thoughts on this, Eric? It's the Saturday Night War, according to 82 Atlantic.
Yeah, thanks for the question at 82 Atlantic. But no, I'm not flattered at all. Look, WWE has been taking pages out of my book since about 1996, right? I created the live wrestling television weekly format. I'm the one that put that shit on the map. I'm the reason why professional wrestling, whether it's AEW or WWE, is commanding the license fees that it does today, because live television is worth more than tape television. Well, guess whose fucking idea that was? Kiddies. You Sallies out there. Come on. Who thought of that? Who thought of that first? Come on. They've been stealing pages out of my book forever. The Attitude Era of my fucking ass. It's a Nitro era. You just got to figure out a way to copy it and call it something else.
Are you talking about Dick Ebersol?
Talking about everybody in WWE. I'm talking about Vince.
Talking about all the dicks.
Every one of them. It's just all a bunch of fucking. They're just looking for the next idea to steal.
Just wait until you get. Just wait until that new book comes out. Then they'll have even more pages to.
Yeah, I'm just a fucking wealth of resources here.
I think this is an interesting question from Josh Eternal that Mr. Recording Woods might be the best to answer.
Ooh, yes.
Will the UFC ever have tag team fighting?
No, not in America, but there is some Russian fighting. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 6-on-6 people dressing up in cartoon characters and whatever, leotards, and fighting each other. There's men versus women and whatever. Yeah, it's a shoot. It's totally a shoot.
I've seen some of that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I haven't seen people dressed up as cartoon characters. Like, I'd check out of that. That's just not my thing. If you get caught watching that, you're going away. You're gonna get some red flag. You're gonna get red flag for something. Right? I walked by his house. I looked in the window. I was about to knock on the door. The big door was open. I looked through and I saw him, and he's sitting on his couch, and he's watching people dressed up as cartoon characters beating each other.
But which cartoon characters, though?
Doesn't that sound like a red flag? Opportunity?
It depends on which cartoon characters, though.
Yeah, it was Batman and Robin.
No, it doesn't.
It does, man. Because you're not going to compare like some badass animes to like Care Bears. Like, yeah, if they're dressed as Care Bears, that's no, thank you.
It's all kinds of wrong, no matter what they're dressed up as. But I have watched the shoot stuff where it's just guys beating the fuck out of each other in a team fighting environment. That's some wild shit. I grew up in Detroit. I've seen that before. I've just never seen it with gloves on. Fun to watch.
And that's not even getting into the medieval shit. There's literally like guys dressed up and girls dressed up as medieval knights and whatever, and they clang the swords and everything in a cage environment.
Adam, what you order for custom matches is your business entirely.
It's paid.
Nice.
All right, here's a question from NY2979. Thanks for the super chat. He really wants to get into it. He says, bringing Brock Lesnar in from time to time. He's talking John Cena, Goldberg, and now Logan Paul today. Is that the new way of business? to NY2979. He said that just seems desperate to him. What do you think, Eric?
Oh,
I think he means desperate on the part of WWE, like as if they need these huge names to kind of come in and save the day, essentially.
oh man, that's just so negative. I'm sorry. I just can't see it that way. What would you rather see? I mean, it's not like these big names that come back occasionally dominate 52 weeks a year. They're here for a minute. You have 52 weeks of programming year in and year out. And I just can't believe that anybody that thinks that bringing in a name like a John Cena, for example, because that's the most recent, to kind of let everybody that was a huge John Cena fan for, I don't know, 15 or 20 years get to relive that experience for a certain number of minutes during a 3-hour show. How in the fuck is that a bad thing? Unless you're just a bitter negative person and you want to look at it that way. I think it's great that there are guys like Goldberg and Cena and Austin. Look at Ric Flair coming up at the end of July that are able and willing to do the work that needs to be done to kind of go back out there and give fans one more chance to relive that experience. Kaufmann and I were just doing, Steve Kaufmann and I were just doing a show with JR. And the topic was Hulk Hogan. And Jim said, he put it so well. He said, I looked at Hulk Hogan like the Eagles, not the Philadelphia ones, but the band ones. The Eagles they were that band where you just always wanted to hear Hotel California because it just brought you back to that moment in time. And that's the same thing that, Hulk Hogan did that for a long time. Steve Austin just did that at WrestleMania. John Cena's doing that right now on Monday Night Raw. Hey, by the way, Sting's doing that at AEW, bitches. So what is your complaint? Or do you just like to fucking complain? I don't know. I'm not suggesting I know one way or the other. But sometimes the way you choose to look at something kind of shapes the way you look at life. And I don't look at, guys like aforementioned names coming back as anything but a plus for those people that are going to get a big kick out of it because it doesn't take anything away from anything else.
Right.
You still have 2 hours and 58 minutes of show to watch where you can get your fill of the same people that you don't care about each and every week.
I think the worst thing about that statement is like, if they didn't bring those guys back, then they'd be complaining, hey, how come they don't bring those guys back?
It's just an age. You're right. You're right, George. And I'm sorry, Jorge. And it's just, I just like Jorge better. I don't know. It just sounds
It may
better.
be his birth name. It may be on his
well,
driver's
there
license.
you go. Well, maybe it's that too. Maybe I'm just onto something here. I don't know. I don't know, man. I like to look at things more positive. That's all.
Yeah, and let's not pretend like the sanctity of sports and everything. Pro wrestling, like any other entertainment aspect, has had dalliances with, cross-pollination of celebrities and what have you. The first WrestleMania, one thing that Eric has done so well, right? Dennis Rodman in the NWO, Karl Malone, Jay Leno, just to name a few. This is a sport that's built in shoot fighting and carny. Never forget.
That's a fact. I follow this guy on Facebook. I'm not going to mention his name here because I don't want to mess it up. I'll mention it next week. This cat posts all kinds of old wrestling, like headlines, newspaper clippings, advertisements, posters, like going back into the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this stuff has been going on forever, folks. It didn't just pop up with WWE or God knows AEW. This shit's been going on forever, all around the world. And when you kind of recognize that and recognize that we're just living in a little sliver of a moment in time. And what we think is really important today is going to be forgotten about in a long time, for the most part. But there are certain people, like I'm going through these old clippings and I'm seeing names that I've heard. I don't know who they are. I mean, I've not watched them wrestle, obviously. I haven't studied them. I don't know their, bios or anything like that. But, I'm seeing these names, that remind me that it's just been going on for a long time. And it's all as Adam said, man, it's carny and athleticism. It's always been that way.
Yeah. I mean, I just went by the Lewis house. So that was the house that Ed Strangle Lewis had for many years. And he rented this house. But the reason why it's so significant outside of the architecture is he played host to Bob Hope and Joe DiMaggio and what have you, right in the city of Glendale, California. So anytime I go up that way, the Lewis house, that's where I'm going. Pay homage.
That's cool.
I like it.
That's cool.
Just quick question.
Let's get to this. Let's get to this super chat from Madden's Elite Podcast. We got lots of good ones tonight. He says, Eric, Tony said they did 1 million in ticket sales, 5 million in pay-per-view buys. Madden's Elite Podcast wants to know, do you guess whether Tony made a profit after expenses? Continuing the math fun, and he loves us.
Yeah, that's $1 million. That's the real $1 million question right there. Because what don't we talk about a lot? Expenses, talent rosters, travel. We don't talk about that. We talk about gross ticket sales and gross revenues because those are the things that get people excited, artificially excited. Because if you don't know the costs associated with those revenues, it's really only half the story, folks. It's like WCW could have back in 1993. WCW grossed $23 million. Well, we lost 10 million, but we grossed 23 million.
You sound like my accountant.
We got to get some really legitimate, authenticated, something from an accounting firm and audited and certified, profit and loss statement before I get excited about numbers. Otherwise, it's a hand job. Sorry.
Ooh. So
there's nothing wrong with a hand job. I mean, come on. If that's how you get. That's how you get.
I mean, depends who's giving it.
Noted.
But I mean, speaking of which, the New Japan whole thing. Let's talk about something that maybe you do have experience with. That whole Starrcade '95. The original Forbidden Door pay-per-view, and obviously Chono Muda coming into WCW '97. How do you determine who pays for everything? Is that something that you guys in New Japan split halfway? Is it something where we want Muda, so we're going to pay for this? Oh, but you're going to have to chip in this or this. How you guys determine that cost on who's paying for what? Which promotion's paying for what?
On the pure talent exchange, I mean, for WCW, it was very simple. And I would see this is why these shows can turn into 2-hour shows. When I took over WCW, Bill Watts had previously had a relationship with New Japan. It's not like I invented it, right? But Bill Watts fucked it up so bad that the Japanese absolutely hated and distrusted WCW. Now I come along. They didn't know who I was. I didn't come up in wrestling. I wasn't a wrestler. I'm just this young, from a Japanese executive's perspective, I was a young boy as an executive. I was a child to them. And here I come. And I want to bring this relationship back together. That's why I hired Sonny Ono to help me with the communication issue and the cultural issue, which is actually a bigger challenge than the communication. Anyway, bridged all that up. And I thought, okay, the only way I'm going to gain their trust is to be ridiculously transparent. So I shared with them my contract relationships, meaning if I had a talent that was making $200,000 a year and I had 180 dates a year on that guy or that gal, then on a pro rata basis, here's how much that talent costs. If you want to book that talent, here's how much it costs. So all I was doing was offsetting my talent costs. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
It's also one of the ways that I could justify increasing my talent budget with certain people like Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko, those guys. It's like, oh, I can't believe Eric Bischoff paid those cruiserweights that much money. Well, guess what? I was able to offset about 60% of that money in Japan. So Yeah, I was responsible for paying it, but somebody else was helping me. It's like renting. You know what I mean? My house, my mortgage, but guess what? You're paying for it, or at least part of it.
But
So
like,
that
who's
was my.
pl-
That
I
was
was
that
gonna say,
was. Go ahead, bro.
I was gonna say who's paying for the flight and the hotel?
If I'm flying talent over to Japan, they are.
Okay.
If I'm flying their talent over here, I am.
Interesting.
I can see why William Schaefer, Super Chat, said, I love WCW as a kid. You are a genius, Eric.
Yeah.
and humble.
It's a burden.
All right, we got another super chat from Mr. Whisper. This is a great one. He says, with so many injuries to big stars on both promotions, it got me wondering, what would Eric do? Is it times like these you would, oh, it went away. Times like these you would use to try and elevate upper mid-carders?
Oh, it's so situational.
Yeah.
Situation dependent. I kind of liked when that shit would happen though, because it brings out either the best. It brings out either the best or the worst in people. You know what I mean? And I enjoyed being in situations like that because it gave me an opportunity to evaluate the people around me. Like, okay, well, that person's selfish, only thinking about themselves, not willing to listen, whatever. This person here, all they want to do is contribute. I'm going to rely more on that person in the future, and I'm going to rely less on that person in the future, whether it was talent or executives or creative people. And I just love being in a fight. My wife will hate if I say this one more time, because I used to say it and it would embarrass her. But through the majority of my life, I would rather fight than fuck. Because fighting brought out a level of energy that I connected with in a much, much different way. And I missed that. And those moments when your back is up against the wall and you're being threatened, whether, I don't mean necessarily physically, but I mean when everything you had laid out, you were all excited about, crumbles right in front of you for reasons you have no control over. You have two choices. You're either going to fight or you're going to fuck. And when you fight and you come out of that and it's pretty good, it's a really good feeling.
Sounds like somebody's dressing up like a cartoon character and fighting over in Europe. That's what I'm hearing.
Very good callback. Very good.
So
There's
Mick has
nothing
two
like
super
a good
chats.
callback. I love that.
Mick has two super chats. We're going to get to this one in the ad full version of our broadcast. Be honest, you'd get AEW level ratings by just cooking on RecTech.
Well, maybe. No, I'm just kidding.
No, of course. He's just kidding. Of course he would.
1.2 million, right? That's
Shucks.
83 meets.
83 meets. I love my RecTech. I'm taking it out of the garage tomorrow because I've used it all winter long. I use my RecTech all year long, even here in Wyoming. When it gets down to 20 degrees below zero and there's a 40-mile-an-hour wind, I use my RecTech all year round. Now, in the wintertime, I keep it inside of the garage, right outside the big garage door, so I can cook on it and still, the smoke gets out of the garage. It doesn't smoke us out of the house. However, it got pretty dirty this winter. It's pretty nasty looking. So I'm pulling it out tomorrow. I've got my, there's a certain kind of polish that you use on stainless steel. I think it's called Barkeepers. I had to order it online just for my RecTech. And it's a powder, but it's just like this old Barkeepers formula that they used to use on brass and stainless steel and shit like that. So I'm going to scrub it down. It's going to look brand new by this time tomorrow. And I'm going to be cooking on it this weekend. I'm going to post some video. So there you go.
Can't wait. All right. Well, everybody, we are going to play a rounding patriotic version of main event mid-card catering. And we'll get to one more fun joke from Mick Mac, but you have to be an ad-free show subscriber to do it. So if you have tuned in on the 83 Weeks channel, thank you so much. Don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button and click the little bell. Then you'll get notified every time we go live with Eric. We do this every Thursday live at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And of course, an extra few minutes at the end for all of our ad-free shows, Top Guys and subscribers there. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to end this show, Top Guys, stay tuned, with this comment from Joseph Carr. He says, "Hey, Eric, so sorry I beat you so bad at trivia the other night, but thanks for choosing me to play." He says, "I can't wait for StarCast and Top Guy Weekend 2022. Woohoo! Until then."
Joey Carr is an animal. He's an animal. He's vicious.
That wasn't me. All right, guys. Ad-free shows, guys. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Everybody else, thanks for watching. See you next week.
This rock track.
Yeah. It's all over the place in terms of tempo. Yeah. There's a whammy bar. Okay, there you go.
I heard this rock track.
Was this a decent show, guy?
This was a great show.
This is great.
So much
100%.
fun.